So the new system is totally participative in nature. You have got a share in it. You can ask the questions. This reminds me about Bhagavad Gita, where the dialogue between, Arjuna and Krishna, which is being quoted in many of the management schools and studies concerned. Arjuna was given the complete option, the opportunity to ask question after question after question. Whether actually it would have taken place on a battlefield, whether Krishna would have given the answer so patiently, we don't know. It's a matter of conjecture. But take the case of people like us. If somebody come and ask first question, second, how many questions we will tolerate? That is called the tolerance limit. How many would have been as patient as Krishna? That also in a battlefield they say, explaining question after question. There are almost 18 chapters. Arjuna has asked so many questions, one after another, one after another. Just imagine a war is about to be started, and you look at this location, the situation, and the questions are given not in any irritating manner, with great fondness. If you see the method of explanation, Krishna uses the word, "Oh friend, oh Arjuna, oh Kunti Putra," all such things to show the love and affection. That may be, of course, probably a story today for many people. That apart, we will not go into that. My point here is the friend, philosopher, guide. Arjuna had the freedom, the fearlessness to ask this question, and here was a coach who guided him properly to a particular place. Today we are talking, when we talk about mentoring and coaching, I am sure they will be talking about the mentoring and the coaching by people like, Krishna. Whether they want to admit or not, that is the best, which we have come across. Then again, of course, you can go to Socrates. Socrates, and the way Plato has, mentioned about it, the questions are asked. Socrates himself asked the questions and helped the students to find their own answers. In all these things, what has happened here is an underlying element of liking or love towards the opposite party. Can we build that into our organizational structure in dealing with our team members? It's $1 million questions to be addressed by all HR team. This has to be developed as a culture. And as I mentioned the other day, by Vineet Nayar's book on employees first and customers second, that the experience shows that some of the institutions are able to achieve this. MBO in PMS, management by objectives. Organizational goals are clearly set and stated in measurable terms. What is called the SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. SMART goals are being set, and jointly, whether the target can be met, whether it can be done. So once the SMART goals are met, that's very important. SMART goals are in currency for the last 10 or 15 years. But now only I think it has been built into the PMS upfront. Goal setting is joint process. There are frequent reviews and sharing of feedback, and seek participation of employees to perform. This is a voluntary concept. Even though voluntary, there is compulsion also, because the participant cannot lay down his own rules. So the superior will also indicate it. So this is what almost like the sixth thinking hat of Edward D. Bono. Both expresses their own viewpoints and arrive at a consensus. This reminds me also of the book by Stephen Covey on third alternative. A beautiful book from the HR front, a beautiful book from the angle of the operations. Anybody who is leading a team, anybody who is having occasion to interact with others will definitely helpful, especially in the PMS. Anybody who is doing a PMS review, I feel must go through this book called Third Alternative. What does Third Alternative talk about it? That when you interact with someone, there is one view of yours and there will be a view of the opposite party. Naturally, both the views may conflict each other. And if that conflict continues, there will be no resolutions. And the objective of achieving an objective may not be met with. In such cases, a third alternative objective, a third alternative can emerge because of cohesion of thoughts. A view, B view, and A plus B, a C view can be emerged. So PMS can be done effectively if we can work from the angle of third alternative. It is better to teach to the staff at large the advantages of thinking, sixth thinking hat, or third alternative. Some of these management funders will help the people to understand and appreciate, rather than facing this PMS as a dreadful thing to take place. It should be willingly shared. That's what is the import of this statement, seeking participation of employees to perform. Performance review exercise, preparation to review. Now this is very important. Preparation to review. Every year, naturally, this must be happening. This must be done in a very, very secured and in a very, very friendly atmosphere. So when a review takes place, it has been said ideally, the person concerned should devote sufficient time. If the boss himself is stressed, he is in the midst of heavy work, he cannot do a review just like that. Just like a performance appraisal should be written over a period of time, not based on some impressionistic viewpoints. Suppose if there is some type of altercation between the staff on the last day, on the next day if the performance appraisal review is to be prepared, naturally he will be colored by the latest events. Whatever good work might have been done in the past might be unnoticed, go unnoticed. After all, human beings are not computers. You see, they are emotional, which we have covered in an earlier class. Because of our emotional nature, sometimes we will be impressed by the latest developments. So when a preparation for review, the manager should devote for it. He should study his performance throughout the year, whatever good points he has done it. It may be difficult, but that is what is called for. Then appraisal interview takes place, giving feedback, not in a judgmental or critical manner. Nobody likes criticism, including the children doesn't like it. If your own children doesn't like criticism, where is the question of the employee liking criticism? They want to hear the good points. All of us want to hear good points. Positive feedback it is called. Positivity everybody want to have. But when in a counseling, when you have to give some type of a negative feedback, it should be given softly in a manner so that it does not hurt his ego. It is not put him on a defensive mode. Managing average performance through counseling. Now there are performers, non-performers, and neutral performance. Performance, you need not worry about it. When you come to average performance also, well, the show will go on. The problem arises with managing average performance through counseling. Average and below performers, we have to pay additional attention on that. Giving feedback to the employees is an art, they say, and many people find it difficult to do. I have come across that cases. It is difficult to give negative feedback because primarily we should start thinking what the opposite party think. So giving feedback is not very easy. So let us be objective and help the employee keep his improvement in mind, to be suggestive and not judgmental at all, to adopt a problem solving approach, not a fault finding approach, and to improve the performance of the appraisee, not to criticize the employee. Appraisee, the last point. If this particular philosophy comes into the meaning, I think project appraisal, performance appraisal every year will not cause any heartburns to both the parties. Now we will take certain case studies as to how the performance appraisal is done in different organizations. This is the case of a public sector bank. In actuality, because I have given some 2, 3, 4 cases to contrast how it is actually in practice. The ideal situation has been discussed, the essentials have been discussed, but whether it is actually put to practice and to what extent it has been in success, these case studies will show. The performance appraisal and potential review are done at half-yearly intervals. In addition to that, at one page is talked about his potentiality, that is called the leadership role, and this particular appraisal form is used to provide incentives and help in self-assessment and give superior's viewpoint and review by the senior official. It's totally participative, and it has been mentioned that it is running, the self-assessment form and the superior's assessment runs into 10 or 12 pages covering various dimensions. I felt that, probably 10 to 12 pages may be very large. But I remember self-appraisal forms of 1 page in the past. I am aware of pages of 2 to 3 pages. But when you are having 10 pages covering so many dimensions, probably the focus may be missed. But that left from organization to organization, and it has been found that it is effective, and this is useful to assess the 20% of the best performers, and they are given rewards. And the inside feedback says when this 20% is identified, naturally no organization is run with 20% performers. The performance will be something much more than that. So definitely a reward system based on the PMS like this will create heartburns, because the people will think that their performance is not fully recorded. Now let's take another case study again from a public sector bank. It has been mentioned now annual performance review formats have been given by the Government of India. It is very exhaustive, and it is given for two different sets of people, general manager and above, and the people below thereafter. And KRA to be arrived at the beginning of the year, half-year assessment to be done. And when it comes to branch operations and all, the weightage is at 30% for managerial dimensions and 70% for business. It's very important. 30% managerial dimension shows about his soft skills, his leadership style, and his potentiality, whereas 70% for the business. Reviewing authority, that is his immediate boss. Then final reviewing authority, that is the boss's boss. And finally the accepting authority. This is how it has been laid down. So 1, 2, 3 layers of assessment takes place, and incentive given to 20% of the staff on the performance basis. And I was told that it has been also attempted 360-degree appraisal for cadre above, DGM and above. So it has also come to the public sector bank now. Probably in the days to come, it may be the whole gamut of the staff members may be covered thereof. In an online environment, it will be easy, it will be possible to get this 360-degree. I'm sure this may be the first step in that particular direction. Now let's take another public sector organization. Online appraisal form is available. Online forms have come about. In the earlier one, it is not fully online, it's given manually. That's the difference. Online appraisal form has come about for a couple of years now. KRA fixed in the beginning, key result areas have been fixed in the beginning of the year. Half-year reports of performance is shared, and it's the duty of the superior to indicate corrections if any called for. The thrust in the superior. Yearly self-assessment given online, reviewing authority review it online, and next authority also ranks it online. And thereafter a final rating is made, and the final rating is made known to the assessee nowadays. Appraisee, not assessee, appraisee. He comes to know what is his particular ranking. Incentives are given to performance. Because of the half-yearly inputs, definitely if there are some below par performance, it would have been brought to his particular notice, and my interaction shows that the people are happy with that particular scheme of things. Now comes to the private sector's situation. Performance review discussion held, final PMS in place, job goals discussed and arrived at, target is arrived at in advance, SMART goals are arrived at mutually. The SMART we already mentioned, the specific, measurable, achievable, realizable, reachable, and finally time bound. Quarterly meetings are held. It's not half yearly here. Quarterly review meetings are held to decide the rating. However, the final rating is not shared openly in that particular discussion. Performance review committee for normalization of findings. Since large number of people are assessing different categories of people, some type of bias or some type of deviations may happen. So they say in that particular bank, a performance review committee has been formed, and they do in such a manner. So normalization, the deviations are reduced to the minimum possible, and performance management workshops. Now, another point that particular bank is doing is performance management workshops are held from branches so that a culture of performance is being developed. A very excellent view. It's based on some consultants report on that, because if that is really put into practice, I'm sure over a period of time, the performance review system in that particular setup will be very much welcome by all the parties concerned. Now, what's the situation prevailing in new private sector banks? Because when we talk about any performance management system in our country, we have to talk about the government bank, the semi-government, or the public sector bank. Of course, we have to talk about the central bank. Every system is different. And finally, of course, the new generation private sector banks. The new generation private sector banks, measurable targets are assigned. They are more professional in all sense of the term, because they did not have a legacy in regard to these items. All staff members are generally officer staff. There is no clerical staff at all. There is no union at all. So they are able to use it in a manner different from other banking organizations in the country. But what is the learning point for us? What the learning point is here for all of us is measurable targets are assigned. Every activity, irrespective of the fact whether he is working in customer service, legal department, or HR department or audit department, the targets have been converted into figures. Some type of measurement matrix have been arrived at, so that at the end of the year they are able to quantify the performance based on whatever activity he is doing. Reporting to one supervisor for appraisal. Each and every employee of the organization, I was told, is linked to one superior. One superior will have to assess his performance or her performance. And this is the third point, which yearly rating is done on performance. Finally, a rating is arrived at. And based on the rating, bonus, every year bonus is paid. Yes, also salary is paid, revised annually. Salary is revised annually, bonus is paid annually, okay. So every year the salary is reset, non-performance downgraded and even phased out. Non-performance, because it's a private sector bank, they give the message, they are posted to non-sensitive departments, and it's an indication that they can find another job. And it was told that a few percentage of people belong to the non-performers. This is the contrast between the complete private sector and the public sector. So if tomorrow our banking industry fall into the private sector, you can be rest assured some of these things, the pink slip culture. When we heard about the pink slip culture of US in the Esther years, we were a little startled. Now it has come to the neighboring friend. We understand so many companies, even in India, has got this what is called the pink slip culture. So this PMS, this is a effect of quantitative measured PMS. Star performance are identified, all confidential, highly professional. So what is the message in the banking industry today is that if you perform, you will be rewarded. And if you do not perform, there is a possibility that some action may take place. Performance appraisal, confidential. Now what is the traversal, the road it has traveled so far, from confidential to total open reports, giving open feedbacks, management by objective based thing, counseling, assessment centers are taken, measuring the work performance, performance linked to incentives, and 360-degree appraisal. All these things shows about an openness, some type of transparency in your dealings. There is nothing secret about it. Nobody is writing behind you. It is written in front of you. A stage will come that both will agree. That type of, it's something like a coach and a training. It's something like a doctor and, patient, for instance. The patient reveals his problem. Doctor prescribes whatever it is. There is nothing like hatred there. There is nothing like dislike. If the doctor says after seeing our medical report that you are suffering from such and such, we don't hate the doctor. Similarly, the superior should have that particular that freedom to point out for the benefit of the employees. That is the road yet to be probably traveled. Since there are 3 different levels, even if there is a bias at one level, I am sure there is a neutralization. Level 2, level 3 brings about some type of, the word called is normalization. So nothing called, even if that particular report is biased, there is a system to find. When I say that my performance is 100 mark, and if the superior says I am 50, I am definitely sure the reviewer will say how there is a contrast between 100 and 50 in this particular case. So there is nothing to be afraid for the performing people. Now let's come to some MCQs here. We will quickly take the purpose of HRD is enhance learning related to present job, correct? Enhance learning towards all subjects, correct? Ensure growth in the organization by creating capabilities in organization to achieve organizational goals. All four are correct. That is why it has been mentioned, choose the most appropriate one. HR questions are a little tricky. There is nothing finally definitive about it. So among the four options, you must select what is appropriate. Similarly, another question quickly, MBO, management by objective process, does involve setting goals, seeking participation, exchanging feedback. The answer is all the three. 1, 2, 3, setting goals, seeking participation, and exchanging feedback.